She kissed me goodbye, said she was off to yoga. I watched her Uber route live on her other phone. It stopped 3 blocks away, at a hotel, room 814. She always said yoga helped her come back to herself. I suppose room 814 was another way to do that, just with dim lighting and a minibar. The Uber icon froze, 3 blocks from our place, pinned to a mid-tier hotel I'd driven past 1,000 times without noticing. I didn't panic. I didn't breathe. I just moved, calmly, as if I were making coffee or folding laundry. I walked to the bathroom, reached under the sink, and peeled away the duct tape holding her second phone. It had lived there for weeks, behind a box of tampons she never used anymore. She hadn't noticed it was missing, or she had and she just didn't care. Her real life was in that phone, not the filtered photos or the messages she showed me. This was the one with the VIP Kings group chat, the constant stream of fire emojis, voice memos where she called someone else baby, her voice syrupy and unfamiliar, like she'd put on a different self, one with more cleavage and fewer boundaries. I listened on mute, her laugh crawling under my skin. I should have walked away. That's what self-respecting men do, right? Discover the betrayal, feel the gut punch, and vanish with whatever dignity they can gather. But pride doesn't feed you when you're invisible. Instead, I sat down. I opened my laptop, launched the server I'd been quietly coding for weeks, my private shadow box, and I hit record. Not for revenge. Not yet. I just needed to see it. Needed to see her. The version of her that didn't perform for me. I wanted to know what made him so fascinating. What she gave away so easily that I had begged for with anniversaries and roses. The room was 814. I knew it before the Uber route stopped. She had a pattern, the same hotel every Tuesday, always the 8th floor, always a 1-hour booking. Not long enough for dinner. Just enough to disassemble herself and leave the evidence in someone else's hands. My hands moved faster than my mind. I opened her camera roll through the synced cloud, scrolled through the latest photos. Selfies, mirror angles, red lipstick, yoga tights she'd never wear to actual yoga. I stared at the timestamp. 20 minutes ago. I knew I wouldn't sleep. I didn't plan to. I rewatched the Uber route, pausing each second like a forensic analyst. I zoomed in on the pin. Room 814. The hallway there is carpeted. I know because I Googled the floor plans. Beige walls. A single wall sconce outside each door. The kind of place built for infidelity, not luxury. Some men want to know who. I didn't. Names felt like distractions. I didn't want the man. I wanted the lie. I wanted the soft goodbye kisses before yoga. The way she hummed in the kitchen before leaving. The sweet scent of grapefruit perfume that wasn't for me. She never wore that scent for me. What kind of person plans to catch their wife lying? What kind of man steals back a phone, builds a digital surveillance tool, and still wonders if it's his fault? I don't know. But that's who I became the moment the pin dropped on room 814. And that's who I'll be until I understand why. The first screenshot I posted got 12 views. By the end of the week, it was over 300. No one knew who she was, but they knew her voice. 12 views. That's how it started. 12 strangers listening to my wife whisper into someone else's ear. No face, no name. Just the sound of her becoming someone I didn't recognize. I thought it would stay small. A curiosity. A digital ghost left to flicker unseen. But on the second night, the thread doubled. On the third, someone commented, "Who is she? I've heard that voice before." They hadn't. But that's the thing about a good lie, it invites belief. I blurred her face, not out of mercy, but design. Emotion hides better behind questions than it does behind evidence. I stripped every photo of metadata, randomized upload times, cross-checked IP blockers. And when I named the room, influencer wife, secret affairs, real audio, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Control. People eat confession when it's well packaged. I fed them just enough. A grainy clip of her giggling in the hallway. A slowed recording of a hotel door clicking shut. A file labeled only Tuesday/814/42 minutes. Each tag was clinical. Facts as breadcrumbs. Date, time, GPS coordinates. File hash. I wasn't hunting justice. Not yet. I was cataloging betrayal. Quietly, carefully, like an archivist in a crumbling museum. My spreadsheet became a second heartbeat. File ID, upload time, peak engagement. I started color-coding spikes in interaction. Red for spikes, blue for shares. Some posts had heat, some didn't, but the chart kept growing. A story building itself frame by frame, and none of them knew who she was. Yet, that night she came home glowing, like she'd just been blessed by the stars. She tossed her hoodie on the chair and said the yoga was transformative. Her skin shimmered with sweat she hadn't earned. Her eyes danced like she'd seen something holy. She asked if I wanted chamomile. I said yes. She smiled, kissed the top of my head like she still believed in me. I didn't drink it, not because I thought it was poisoned, because it was real, and I wasn't ready for anything real. I left the mug on the table and opened my laptop in the dark. Clip number 17 had just hit 98 views. Tomorrow, I'd post the one where she says, "I've never done this before." She said that in 3 different clips. Crypto Joe, Marcus Fit, Ethan NYC, and one saved only as Dot. They were all in the chat, and none of them were me. It wasn't chaos. That's what shook me most. The group chat ran like a business. Scheduled meetups, drop points, recycled jokes I'd never heard. Not a single "I love you." No misplaced hearts. Just updates, status reports. She managed them like errands. And I wasn't on the list. Crypto Joe paid for convenience, Uber credits, hotel vouchers, cryptic "miss you" texts. Always misspelled. Always ignored. His profile was full of receipts. I matched the timestamps to her calendar. Yoga, work drinks, early spin class. All him. Marcus Fit worked the body angle. Left guest passes at her gym to met her protein hacks. Sent shirtless mirror selfies she never liked, just viewed. He was functional. Probably thought it meant something. It didn't. Ethan NYC was late nights and ellipses. He sent voice notes that never said anything real. Just background noise. A voice in her dark. I cataloged each note. Labeled them by tone. Playful. Slurred. Jealous. He ended every one with the same line, "You up?" She usually wasn't. And then there was the 4th. The one saved only as. No name. No emoji. Just the lock. He didn't speak. Didn't post. Didn't ask for anything. He reacted. Thumbs up to her mirror selfies. Eyes emoji when she said she was feeling risky. That was it. But she sent him things she didn't send the others. Photos without filters. Short videos of her spinning slowly in a hotel mirror. Wearing nothing but silence. He got the raw footage. I saved those first. Not out of pain. Out of precision. I built files for each of them, custom folders, alias IDs, engagement metrics. I logged what they sent, what they got, how she responded. Who got in, hugs and kisses. Who got you busy. Who got nothing at all. They weren't people to her. Not really. They were lanes. Maintenance. She kept them like a garden, trimmed, fed, managed. But to me, they were data. And data has shape. Once you have enough of it, you can build something real. Not justice. Not truth. Something worse. Something no one can look away from. She caught me staring at the bathroom mirror one morning. I told her it made the room look smaller. Later that night, I covered it in duct tape. There's something about reflection that unsettles me now. Not just what it shows, but what it doesn't. That morning, I stood behind her as she brushed her teeth. She leaned slightly forward, spitting toothpaste and humming some throwaway pop song. I watched her mouth, the same one that whispered, "You up?" into phones she kept muted when I entered the room. She looked up, saw me behind her in the mirror, smiled through foam. "You're acting weird," she said, grinning. "But hot weird." I said the mirror made the room look smaller. She laughed, walked out. Didn't notice I hadn't brushed my own teeth. That night, I covered it in duct tape. Strip by strip. Matte black, tight to the glass. No more outlines. No more ghost behind her shoulder. She called it minimalist. Said she loved that I was finally changing. She never noticed the camera tucked behind the towel rack. Or the audio mic stitched into the fake aloe plant, the one she bought on clearance. She didn't ask why I started showering at the gym. Didn't care. Didn't want details. By then, I had over 1,400 users on the archive. They came in waves late at night, mostly. They paid in crypto. Used fake names like Signal Vulture and She Deserved More. They were respectful. Obsessively so. They wanted background. Not just clips, context. What made her like this? What was her wound? What did she believe about love? Was she always this person, or did she become her? I didn't answer at first. Just posted what I had. But they were patient. And the more they asked, the more I began to see things in the footage that I hadn't noticed before. The way her voice shifted slightly depending on which man she was talking to. Lighter with Ethan, sarcastic with Marcus, breathy with Lock. The way her posture changed at the mirror when she thought no one was watching. Shoulders slouched like the persona had melted off. I started tagging those moments. Unmasked_01.mov. Silent_02.wave. One user said it was like watching a ghost put on flesh. Another compared her to an actor between takes. But I didn't think she was acting. Not really. She was just split, fragments shifting for whoever held the camera. She thought she was choosing. She never noticed my lens. In trying to expose her, I started learning her. Understanding her. And in that awful, electric way, I began to feel closer to her than I ever had before. I still haven't taken the tape off the mirror. Not because I'm afraid of her. Because I'm afraid of what I'll see behind her next. I'll be back by 9, she said, slipping on nude lipstick. The location pin said otherwise. So did the 6-second voice note she sent someone else. It was the way she said it, automatic, easy. Like breathing. Just dinner with some brand girls. Shouldn't be late. Her smile held no tremor. Her voice carried no weight. But her tea sat untouched on the table. Still steeping when the elevator dinged. She'd styled her hair too much for a casual dinner. Pulled out the curling iron she only used on nights she didn't want to be questioned. Wore the grapefruit perfume again, the one she never wore for me. I knew before the door even shut. Midtown. Room 614. Not 814 this time, but the same game. Different mask. The new alias was Sandro. I knew because the rideshare route was labeled under his burner profile. I'd traced it twice already. He tipped well. Cash. Always left early. And the voice note? I listened to it over and over. 6 seconds. Want to see what I wore for yoga today? I didn't wear it long. The sound of a zipper. A breath caught between tease and truth. It was her first lie I caught in real time. Before, I'd pieced it all together backward, fragments, timelines, phone caches. But this time I was watching as it happened. Listening as she chose to say something beautiful and false. And when I posted it, that small, haunting voice note, the server erupted. They clipped it. Filtered it. Turned it into grainy, slowed-down edits with subtitles. Yoga is code. Notice her pitch change at 0:03. She's done this before. Some said they felt for me. Said I deserved better. Others just asked for the rest. But their empathy meant nothing. This wasn't about understanding. It was about circulation. Velocity. Impact. This wasn't pain. It was currency. Every lie she told, polished, casual, wrapped in care. I could convert it into something measurable. Into reach. Into numbers. Into proof. That night I didn't confront her. Didn't flinch when she kissed my cheek on the way in. Didn't ask why her tea had gone cold. I just pressed upload. And somewhere in the noise of 1,800 anonymous views, I heard something quieter. The sound of our life slipping from one reality to another. Not shattered. Just repurposed. She started asking questions. Not about me, but about her. Do you think I've been off lately online? Her voice was too light when she said it. Off lately online. Like it was a glitch. A cosmetic issue. Something a new filter or better lighting could fix. But the spiral had started. Her follower count, once steady, inflated, predictable, had begun to slip. Engagement dropped. Brand emails went unanswered. She blamed the algorithm. Said Instagram was punishing creators for being too real. I didn't respond. I just watched as she re-recorded the same 15-second story 5 times in a row. Smile. Pout. Tilt head. Blink slow. Every gesture carefully engineered to say, I'm still relevant. But it didn't land. One comment hit harder than the rest. Is this the girl from the leaks? She laughed when she read it. Scoffed. Called it troll bait. But I saw the twitch in her thumb. The 2-second delay before she hit block. The way she stared at the ring light like it might expose her. She was unraveling. And I hadn't said a word. Meanwhile, the archive kept growing. I uploaded more from the VIP Kings thread. Harmless things compared to what I had. A voice note that ended with a sigh. A chat screenshot where she said, God, you're so bad for me. The content itself didn't matter. It was the timeline that hooked them. Timestamps. Usernames. Patterns. That's what the viewers wanted now, the sequence. The decay. They weren't watching her anymore. They were watching what happened to her. They were watching the story of a woman falling out of her own narrative. And I didn't even have to exaggerate. I just placed the puzzle pieces in order. In captions. In data. In tone. That's what she never understood. She built herself as a brand. An algorithm of glamour and softness and low-calorie rebellion. I sold her back as a story. A flawed protagonist. A woman of contradictions. Desperate for control, bleeding authenticity. A curated collapse. And in stories, only one person controls the ending. The one who holds the edit. She deleted the chat. Blocked every man. Wiped her stories clean. But the views kept climbing. It happened like a system crash. No warning. No slow fade. One morning, the VIP Kings group vanished. No more voice notes. No emojis. No check-ins from room 614. She ghosted them all. Her feed turned grayscale. Empty countertops, lukewarm sunsets. Captions like, "Just resetting right now, thought balloon sparkles." It wasn't a rebrand. It was a purge. For a second, a real second, I thought she'd found out. That maybe she saw the forum. Saw her voice dissected, echoed, repurposed. But it wasn't guilt. I know the shape of guilt. This was fear. Her DMs filled with static, half-sincere questions, veiled accusations. Twitter threads, podcast clips, subreddit sleuths decoding every flick of her wrist, every gap in her timeline. Some of them were guessing. Some were right. She wasn't losing followers. She was losing control. That night, she came home early. No makeup. No curated glow. Just skin. Just eyes. No music. No suitcase. No giggle. She stood in the hallway for a long time. Then said, almost to herself, "I think someone's pretending to be me." Her voice was quiet. Slower than usual. "I think they're leaking things." I looked up from the stove. Nodded slowly. "That sounds serious," I said. "Want some tea?" She didn't answer. Just looked at me. Really looked as if trying to focus through fog. But it wasn't the look I wanted. It wasn't panic, or suspicion, or closeness. It was distance. That cold, unreachable space between someone you know and someone you used to know. She never saw it. Never really saw me. Not when I held the camera. Not when I held her hand. And in that quiet moment, watching her stare past me, I made the decision. No more uploads. No more metadata. No new tags. The archive would go quiet. Not because she didn't deserve it. Not because I forgave. But because I didn't need it anymore. The story was alive. It had outgrown her. Outgrown me. She was no longer the subject. Just the myth. And me? I'd already won. She broke down at 3:12 a.m., sitting cross-legged in the kitchen, whispering to herself, "I don't know who's doing this." I heard the cabinet open before I heard her voice. She moved through the kitchen like a ghost, barefoot, brittle, almost soundless. The light from the fridge flickered across her face as she crouched on the floor, phone in hand, wrapped around it like it could save her. She was whispering, but I heard every word. "I didn't even do anything that wrong," she said, soft, self-soothing, as if betrayal were a technicality, as if intention mattered more than impact, as if lies came with receipts and return policies. She scrolled endlessly, through comments, theories, grainy edits of her face. Room 814, her laughing, her shirt falling from one shoulder, looped, framed, judged. And when she found it, that one, the sobbing started, sharp at first, then hollow, like she'd fallen through herself and landed somewhere she didn't recognize. She thought it was a stalker. She said so out loud. A leak, a deepfake, some obsessive troll with editing software and a vendetta. She changed her passwords, deleted half her contacts, burned usernames she'd spent years building. I stayed in the hallway, half shadow, full silence, watching. She didn't know I was there until she looked up, eyes red, mascara flaked, mouth trembling like she might ask for help. And then, "Why are you so calm?" That was the moment. Not the voice notes, not the server, not the uploads. This, her eyes meeting mine, seeing me for the first time since it all began. And still, she didn't know. I didn't blink, didn't flinch. I just said, Because I'm not the one losing control. That was it. No scream, no confession, no collapse. Just a silence so wide it swallowed the room. Her phone slipped from her hand and landed face down on the tile. The light from the fridge shut off. She didn't say another word. Neither did I. I stood there, still and patient, as realization bloomed across her face, like something rotting under glass. She stopped filming herself. But I didn't. The camera stayed on, even as she fell apart. Her last post was a quote card, white text on beige, something about self-worth and healing offline. Then, silence. She deleted everything. Instagram, Twitter, the alt accounts. Even the group chat was scrubbed, name gone, thread vanished. She called it a digital cleanse. Said it like it was something noble. I almost laughed. Quietly into my sleeve, because the camera was still running. She stopped filming herself. But I didn't. She slept longer now. Not better, just longer. Tossed more. Spoke less. Started drinking that herbal tea again, the one she used to pretend to love. But the cup always went cold. She never made it past the second sip. Sometimes I'd catch her in front of the bathroom mirror, the one I'd covered in matte black duct tape. She'd just stand there. No expression. No movement. Like she was waiting for something to reappear. I never took the tape down. The server was quiet now. The threads were stale. The followers had moved on to chasing newer scandals, fresher wounds. But they didn't matter anymore. I wasn't recording for them. I was archiving for me. Her collapse wasn't explosive. It was slow, like mold growing through wallpaper, silent, thorough, unrecoverable. She'd try to read again. Stare at pages. Forget to turn them. Leave shows paused for hours. Say she was going to the store, then come back with nothing. She didn't speak to her friends. Didn't ask about mine. She lived here next to me. But never closer than she'd been at her worst. And still, she never asked the real question. Never wondered aloud if it was me. That was what stuck with me. Not the betrayal. Not the lies. But the fact that I had been so completely unseen. So safely dismissed, that even as her world burned down, she never even looked in my direction. The last screenshots stayed pinned on my wall. Printed. Trimmed. Aligned. One of them said, "You're my escape. He's just there." I looked at that one often. Not out of rage. But because it was the most honest thing she ever said. And because it proved what I'd always feared. I had stopped being a person to her. Long before I ever became her punishment. She looked at me like a stranger. And for once I felt seen. Not loved. Not forgiven. But known. The machine had stopped humming. No more screen refreshes. No new clips to clip, no metadata to scrub. I stopped tracking her location. Archived the spreadsheet. Renamed the final audio file final.wave. Uploaded it nowhere. Just kept it for myself, a keepsake of absence. The server didn't crash. It simply went still. That morning, she sat across from me at the kitchen table. Wrapped in a blanket that didn't match anything in her home. Hair tangled. No earrings. Barefaced in every sense of the word. Not reset. Not authentic. Just small. Just human. "I don't know who I am anymore," she whispered. I looked at her. Really looked. She didn't cry. Didn't beg. Didn't ask who did it. There was no apology coming. No explanation deserved. Somewhere in her I saw it. A shape of recognition. Maybe not certainty, but proximity to it. And beneath that, a flicker of something rarer. Not regret. Not fear. Understanding. The kind of understanding that doesn't rise to the surface, but drowns you slowly from the inside out. I said nothing. Words were too small now. Too late. Instead, I stood. Walked upstairs. Took the tape off the mirror. One long strip at a time. It didn't crack. Didn't fog. Didn't blink. It just looked back. I left that afternoon. No bags. No letter. Just a clean mirror and an empty spreadsheet. I don't need to expose her anymore. The world already saw what I needed them to. And more importantly, so did she. There's no victory in this. No redemption. No final twist. Just the end of a story she didn't know she was in. And me? I'm not the narrator anymore. Not the architect. Not the husband. I'm just the curator of silence. And silence, finally, listens.